Today's movie is A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. And by this point, this series has already seen epic highs and tragic lows. The first Nightmare on Elm Street is widely regarded as one of the greatest horror movies ever, and it introduced us to the iconic Freddy Krueger. Part 2 had a Meryl Streep look-alike making out with Freddy Krueger in the real world. And Part 3 was on par and arguably better than the original. So those are some big, weird shoes to fill for the fourth entry. And I feel like this is like the make or break entry for this franchise. Either continue the upward trajectory set by Dream Warriors, or just start to get weird with it. And they do give this movie a fighting chance by hiring young Finnish director Renny Harlin. To understand why this is a big deal, Renny Harlin would go on to direct Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, and Deep Blue Sea, 3 of the greatest action movies of the 90s. And he directed the little-known found-footage horror Devil's Pass, which is amazing. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. So we're in good hands here. So let's see if Renny Harlin is truly Finnish, or if he's just getting start. What? Who the fuck wrote that line? Damn it, Jerry. Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Dream Masters picks up a few years after the events of Dream Warriors, and the biggest change we notice is that Patricia Arquette didn't return to play Kristen, and was replaced by Tuesday Knight. And fun fact, Tuesday Knight was born on a, you guessed it, Friday afternoon. Tuesday Knight also sang the opening credits theme, Running from This Nightmare, and I gotta tell you, it's actually pretty good. Kristen is having a dream and is standing in front of a dilapidated former house of Nancy Thompson and Jesse Walsh. She goes inside and feels Freddy's presence, so she pulls Kincaid and Joey into her dreams to help her. The boiler is cold, and Kincaid and Joey maintain that Freddy is dead, but just then Kincaid's dog jumps out of the boiler and bites Kristen, and they all wake up. Kristen goes to pick up her boyfriend Rick Johnson to go to school, and Rick's dad can give Mr. Walsh a run for his money in the complete piece of shit dad department.
You going out dressed like that?
What is your big objection here, dude? She's wearing what I imagine a nun would wear on her day off.
When Dad's popping aspirin like popcorn, it's avoid all contact day.
Waiting for a limo?
Come up to the club, honey.
That is the opposite of avoid all contact. Avoiding contact does not include smooching your dad. And joining them is Rick's sister Alice, and every line of dialogue looks like it's out of sync, but I checked, and it's not my DVD, it's just how she talks.
You know, you are one major league hunk.
And rounding out their friend group is the big hair health nut Debbie and the mousy asthmatic Sheila. That night, Kincaid dreams that he's in the junkyard where Freddy's bones are buried, and he somehow brought his dog Jason into the dream with him. And I'm sure it's just a fun reference to Jason Voorhees, but Jason is just a very funny name for a dog. It's like naming your dog Greg or Brendan. And Jason pees fire and resurrects Freddy, and according to legend, Renny Harlin got this idea while talking with James Cameron, because of course he did. You know, there is a shocking amount of iconic movie imagery that is the direct result of directors having casual conversations with James Cameron. Look it up if you don't believe me. So through the power of Jason the dog's fire piss, Freddy is brought back to life, and he kills Kincaid by stabbing him in the stomach. And then Freddy goes into Joey's dream and kills him by drowning him in his waterbed. And when Joey's mom comes to do his laundry, she finds him completely sealed in his waterbed. Now, I've said this about a lot of Freddy deaths, but how the hell are the cops going to explain this one?
Oh, nothing to see here, folks. This young man clearly tried PCP for the first time, and he didn't have a friend chain him up beforehand, like the Wolfman.
The next day at school, Kristen is worried that she hasn't seen Joey or Kincaid, and she talks to Alice about nightmares.
We have matching luggage again. The bags under your eyes.
Oh my God, Kristen, be careful. You just put a lit cigarette by your eyeball.
How do you handle your nightmares?
My mom taught me when I was little. Did you ever hear of the Dream Master?
This is the only Dream Master I recognize.
It's a rhyme. Just have to dream about someplace fun. Remember, you're in control.
That doesn't rhyme at all. Alice works as a waitress at the Crave Inn. Nice. And Rick rushes in to tell Alice that Kincaid and Joey died last night, and they leave with Alice's crush Dan tagging along, and they go to the Thompsons' old house.
It's not just a house. It's his home.
Now, is it ever established that Freddy ever lived there? Like, what is his deal with this house?
I don't get it.
Yeah, Dan, that's why we didn't invite you to come along.
She says that he comes back in dreams, and if he kills you in your dream, you're dead for real.
Except for this time a few years ago when he killed some of my cousin's friends at a barbecue. Like, no one was dreaming, he just kind of showed up. That evening at dinner, Kristen's mom drugs her because she's worried that she hasn't been sleeping.
No, Mother. You just murdered me. Take that to your therapy.
I said that same thing when my parents signed me up to play football. And Kristen is the last of the Elm Street children, and Freddy tries to taunt her into bringing one of her new friends into the dream, and she inadvertently brings Alice into her dream. And before Kristen dies, she transfers her dream power to Alice, and Alice wakes up. And another fun fact, my Uncle Greg worked on this production as a key grip, but he had a falling out with Rennie Harlan because he kept wandering into the shot. But in his defense, he ducked down pretty fast upon realizing it. So I don't think Rennie should have called my Uncle Greg a worthless American shitheel. And so all the OG Dream Warriors are dead, and apparently in the town of Springwood, if you're killed by the same person, you all have to be buried right next to each other. It's weird. And the next day, Sheila falls asleep in class and gets attacked by Freddy. And I do have to say that a lot of the shots in this movie are extremely well done. And Freddy sucks the life out of Sheila and she dies. And Alice realizes that she was actually the one that was dreaming of Freddy, and she had accidentally brought Sheila into her dream.
Dan, I really don't know if it's a story. Look at us. We're dropping off like flies here.
Man, Rick really paved the way for Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin, didn't he? Alice reveals to Dan that Kristen was the last of the children of the people that murdered Freddy, and so Freddy is using Alice and her new powers to bring children to him. I feel like Dan is a very underrated character. Like, he could have been the typical jock douchebag, but he's actually a nice guy and is extremely helpful to everybody. But as I've stated before, no character named Dan is ever allowed to survive a horror movie.
Let me hit you.
Dan!
Oh my god, his name is Dan? Okay, they are beyond f***ed. No one named Dan has ever survived a horror movie. And before you come after me, whatever character you are thinking of named Dan that survived a horror movie is actually named Danny, so it does not count.
Sorry, Dan. I don't make the rules. You seem like a nice guy, but Freddy is definitely going to murder you and then make fun of your one-syllable name. Rick falls asleep on the toilet and gets chased by Freddy, and so when it came time to film Rick's death, the production had completely run out of money, which is why we get Rick fighting an invisible Freddy. And after the elaborate deaths in Part 3, it is kind of disappointing that this is the second character to get stabbed in the stomach. Damn it, why does that keep happening? So Rick is killed and he's buried next to Nancy Thompson's dad, as were his wishes. And after every death, Alice seems to absorb the victim's abilities. Kind of like Peter in Heroes, or Sylar in Heroes, or Samson Gray in Heroes. Alice falls asleep and dreams that she goes to a movie theater. Ugh, this is why I hate going to the theater. People spilling drinks, screaming, being pulled violently toward the screen by an unseen force. I always get stuck next to that person. But actually, while I've got you here, I'm going to let you know a little life hack. Next time you go to reserve your seats at a movie theater and you need 2 seats, don't pick seats like this. Someone's definitely going to sit right next to you. So what I do is I pick 2 seats like this. It's all psychological. All these seats are next to each other. But people see that and they're like, I'm not sharing a seat with a stranger. Now you do run the risk of sharing a 2-seat lounger with just the goofiest motherfucker alive, but sometimes you gotta roll the dice. Alice falls into the movie, and I've gotta say, this is really a visually stunning movie. And Freddy demands more children to kill, and I guess 25-year-old Deb is close enough. Deb is bench pressing when Freddy shows up to spot her.
I don't believe in you.
I believe in you.
Aw, positive reinforcement, and he knows the importance of resistance training. Freddy breaks her arms and she grows insect arms. And that's rough, but I mean, she was benching without a spotter, so chances were pretty good that she was going to get hurt anyways. And then Deb gets stuck in a giant glue trap. And I complained about everyone else just getting stabbed in the tummy, but holy shit, they all got off light. I think Deb probably owes Freddy money or something. Dan heads to the Crave Inn to pick up Alice.
All the towns in America. And I gotta move to the Bermuda Triangle.
Well, Dan, your dad is head of research and development at Betty Crocker, and he's on the cusp of inventing Dunkaroos. It's only natural that he moved to Springwood, which is where the corporate offices of Betty Crocker are located. Stop thinking of yourself for once and think of how awesome Dunkaroos are going to be. Alice and Dan race to help Deb, but they realize that they're in a dream time loop, and they try to break out. But unfortunately, my Uncle Greg, before he was kicked off set, accidentally attached a giant chain to this truck, and it was completely totaled. And the truck was an antique that was on loan from the Smithsonian, and it's kind of the reason that they ran out of money. Rennie Harlan spit in my uncle's face at the premiere and said that he'd kill him if he ever saw him again. I mean, it was a big goof, but I think Rennie Harlan might have some anger issues. So they had to add a scene showing that they hit a tree, and Dan is hurt, so they call an ambulance to take him to the hospital. And Alice runs home and begins gearing up for a fight against Freddy. She has Deb's studded belt, Rick's Miyagi-Do headband, Sheila's bug zapper. She's like a dead friend Voltron.
Welcome to Wonderland, Alice.
Actually, if Freddy ever went to Wonderland, I think even he'd be creeped the fuck out. Especially if it was the TV movie version with Scott Baio and Telly Savalas and freaking Carol Channing.
Better. Much better.
Ugh, absolutely terrifying. Alice then utilizes all of her Dream Master powers and starts beating the shit out of Freddy. But Freddy's that really annoying bully that just laughs when you finally had enough and take a swing at him, but you've never been in a fight, so it just kind of graces off his forehead. And so far, Freddy's been kind of boring in this one. Very low energy. I think he needs to call someone a bitch.
I've been guarding my gate for a long time, bitch.
There it is. Alice then uses a mirror to stop Freddy, and the souls and Freddy begin ripping out of him and tearing him to pieces. And I mean, that's all well and good, and it's a cool scene and all, but Freddy's looked at himself in a mirror quite a few times, and nothing's ever happened.
I can sleep 2, maybe 3 hours if I'm lucky. I don't mind, though. I have more reasons to stay awake now.
Like trying those Dunkaroos you were telling me about. So Dan and Alice walk off together, and actually, how is Dan still alive? His name is Dan. This shouldn't be. Oh, wait, there's more to this scene. Oh, hey, Alice, I've been meaning to tell you. You've been calling me Dan, but my name is actually Don. Common mistake. That makes sense. Oh, thank God. My theory is still correct.